Chris, what can you say about the play of Jordan Addison, through 6 games now, 5.5, I guess, after he left the one game early, just as a freshman stepping in, becoming your go-to target?
He's done a great job. I think he does a great job of transferring what he learns in the classroom to what he does on the field. Really humble kid, obviously very talented. He's done a great job of adapting to what we're trying to do and what we're asking from him, and he's been exceptional.
You've been around receivers for a bit. I mean, as a freshman, have you seen a kid get to his level that soon, that quickly into a system?
He's been about as good as I've been around. I've had a lot of really good ones, and he's right up there with them. Like I said, I think he does a great job of he's not a rep guy. You can tell him one time and he gets it right, right away. So he's been about as good as I've dealt with as a true freshman.
When you were recruiting him, Chris, did you see him as a guy who could step in and not only start as a freshman, but excel as a freshman?
I've been recruiting him for a couple of years, so I was recruiting him at another institution, prior to getting here. But last year when, I got here and saw how things eventually shaked out as far as our depth chart, I did think he had a chance to come in and play early. And to be honest, I did think he had a chance to start at the position that he's starting at. So that's really not necessarily a surprise to me. But, obviously no one's expecting a player to come in and be among the leaders in the nation as a true freshman in catches and all those kind of things. So that's obviously surpassed what my expectations were.
Beyond his athletic ability, what is it, about him mentally and emotionally and everything else that makes him a good player?
I mean, he's very sudden as a player. He's got great quickness, great change of direction. He's got soft hands. So those things obviously, are rare. He can make people miss, but he can run by you. So he's got great speed, he's got a great initial burst. So those things separate him from most. But I think his biggest thing is he's so humble and down to earth. Like none of this has really phased him one way or the other. He hasn't changed since, practice one of spring ball to 2 years ago, 3 years ago when I started recruiting him. He's been the same kid the whole time. So anytime you tell him something or whatever you teach him, he transfers that to the field and stays as humble and grounded as you can be.
How young was he when you were recruiting him at the other institution?
He was a sophomore. It was before his sophomore year.
Did you offer him at that point?
Yes, we were the first to offer him, yes.
Chris, Pat told us yesterday about wanting to get others involved. Other receivers involved? What do you tell the other guys in the room about maybe stepping up their game?
I don't think there's been a problem with those other guys in the room. The ball goes where it goes, and that's kind of, like I know people think that it's, you're targeting one guy all the time or whatever, and that's not the case. I mean, if you look at it, I think we've got 3 guys in the top 15 or something like that in the conference and receptions, and Taysir's missed a couple games. So at the end of the day, I think the ball goes where the defense, dictates it's going and where the quarterback throws it. So the biggest thing is making sure we're available, and that we make the plays when we have an opportunity to make them. We've had games, we're averaging almost 300 yards a game passing, I believe, and it should be more than that. I think, we've left some out there, which is disappointing, and we got to do better at that. But, I think all those guys, we've been pretty even. I think if you look at it, we're one of the few teams in the conference, much less the country, that has 4 guys that have 200 yards receiving or more. So, that's balance, I think.
Chris, about Jordan Moore, just his athleticism is always surprised with how explosive he is, but he's not just using it to get past people. He's finding different ways to beat people with it in his routes. How much have you seen that as coach is different from what you've seen out of normal receivers, even when you see the rare talent that is as explosive as he is in such a young age?
How is he different from the most freshmen?
Yeah, most freshmen, even like some you might have seen even on other programs that have his level of athleticism.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think his ability to process is far superior than most people. I've had a lot of really good ones. I had Tavon Austin at West Virginia, who was super talented. He was not as far along mentally as Jordan is. You know, Tavon did other things that were tremendous, but he didn't necessarily process defenses and things like that like Jordan does. Like he can see, he still makes some mistakes here and there, but he can sit back and see the safeties, rock one way or another and understand how the coverage is rotating. He understands how to sit in the zone when, some people run through it. So those things give him a chance to be special where other people, it takes some time to be able to process those things on the run. His ability to transfer things from the classroom to the field is as good as anybody I've been around.
Chris, how have your guys been able to adapt, working with Joey and Davis more so than Kenny of late? I mean, how's that connection been with the new quarterbacks?
It's been good. At the end of the day, I always tell our guys, it's our job to help them look good. And wherever the ball is, we've got to make it. Wherever the play to be made is, we've got to make it. We've got to get a comfort level with Joey, now, and Kenny whenever he's, playing, or Davis whenever he's playing. Whoever's back there, we've got to give them a level of comfort that they know we're going to be where we're supposed to be on every play. And I think we're getting there. It's always a work in process and progress. But I think they've done a nice job of getting some comfort level with him and him having comfort level with us, because it's a two-way street. He's got to feel comfortable that we're going to be where we need to be too.
You guys are near the top of the country in drop passes. Is that something where it's just physical work, go get on the jugs machine, or is there a mental side of that too that you deal with these guys with?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of let you guys deal with that more than me, because back when I was playing, people would say, "Oh, it touched your hands, that's a drop." Well, Pro Football Focus doesn't sit back and tell us how many drops we got. We know how many drops we have or don't have. If a ball touches our hands, that doesn't mean it's a drop. So I don't harp on that stuff because it doesn't do any good. I think no one catches more balls than we do, and no one works harder than we are to try to make sure we eliminate those things. We've had a couple, you throw 40, 50 balls. We also were number one in the country in pass attempts too. And we're number one in the country. Kenny was number one in the country in passing yards. So all those things, if you pass more, you're going to drop some. That happens. So at the end of the day, I don't really stress it. I'll leave that up to, other people too. Like I said, we catch 1 million balls and we'll continue to catch 1 million balls. That's what we do. And they'll make those plays. Like I said, I have faith in those guys and it's amazing. You catch 400 something yards and people will say, well, but you dropped this or dropped that, so those things happen. I watched a game Saturday night. I ain't gonna say what team. They got some good receivers and they dropped like 3-4 in a row. And, it is what it is.
Any final questions about Notre Dame for Coach Beatty?
DJ, is he attracting more attention the last couple games since the NC State game?
I don't think so. I think it's a little bit he was moved into the spot where Jordan was, with Jordan going off. And so that took a little bit. He got some of the balls that Jordan has been getting this last week. DJ got those that game. So, a lot of it and everything is the ball goes where the defense kind of dictates. And, we've played a lot of close coverage teams, which end up changing where the ball goes a little bit. Notre Dame is a little bit different. They play a lot more open coverage, so that'll dictate the ball going outside a little more as opposed, to some of the things that we've seen in the past. So, I think he's done a nice job. He just hadn't gotten the ball thrown his way that much in the last game or so.
You mentioned, Chris, Notre Dame's defense and the way they play. They only have one interception, but it seems like they've had a lot of hands-on balls. What's stuck out when you've been watching film of them?
Yeah, they're really well coached. They do a nice job of keeping things in front of them, so there's not a lot of deep balls or things thrown over their head. They do a nice job with their scheme as well as, helping that they'll roll some things to the boundary to take away your best receiver if he's into the boundary. They do some really nice things, and they've got some really good players. You know, obviously they're Notre Dame, so they're going to get, you know, a lot of talent, but they do a nice job of developing them as well. You know, their safeties are really good. You know, they do a nice job fitting the runs and staying and not letting you behind them in the pass game. And the corners do a nice job as well. Number 28 is really good to the field. He makes a ton of plays. You know, doesn't, like you said, doesn't have a ton of interceptions, but they bat down a lot of balls. And they're you know, making people make contested catches.